This video is going to discuss security in general. I need to point out that there are two distinct aspects of security, and really only one aspect is true security. Um, the first aspect is the user interface and showing users what they have privileges to see. This has really nothing to do with the actual physical security of a request. The physical security of the request is when you actually lock down a given resource based on the user's privileges. Now these are two distinct, very important concepts to understand here. So I'm going to show you an example here. I've opened up my g@g user XML file. You'll notice that there are a number of authorities in here. And by the way, let me talk about authorities as well. These authority values are nothing more than strings. There is no smarts or any type of intelligence built into an authority value. They are simply string values. I named them with a dot notation just for organizational purposes. So for example, there is nothing that links this authority of query.birth with query.birth.lhd.12345, whatever. It doesn't matter. There's no intelligence, there's no hierarchical access inferred by the value of an authority. They are straight, flat text values. It could be anything. All that needs to happen is that this authority has to match on the back end the privilege. Now the authority also has to match the authority that is provided within the selection type XML files that are used to control what a user sees. So let's talk about that first. So I'm going to open up my my security selections index file. And you'll notice here there's no selections in here. It references another file. I know that most of the selections are in the EPHT file, so I'm going to open up that EPHT file, which is this one right here. And we have some selections in here, and you'll notice that each selection has an authority. Now, this file has two entries that both need the query.ucr authority. The third one here is query.mort, and then we have query.birth, and so on. And I'm going to go back to my g@g security file here and show you the privileges that this user has when they log in. So when they log in, they have UCR, birth, COMDIS, and HTTP. So when I go to my selection page, and I'm going to log out on this guy just so I can rerun it and show you again. Get this user interface to work here. Okay, so I just logged off. I'm going to go back out here to Explorer and go to my secure dataset index. I'll log in as g@g. And you'll notice here that I only see these actually five selections. And that's because they match up with the values that are in the selection list page. So let's go take a look at those again. So remember, here's my four authorities, actually four authorities that apply to a selection. I'll show you these are row level security features we'll talk about in just a minute here. But back onto my EPHT selection file, I actually have this g@g user has the query UCR, and so you'll notice in my browser I am given those selections. The census tract, Utah small area, birth by zip. See that census tract, Utah small area. I don't get mortality because that user does not have that authority. And I do get the birth module by zip, and I don't get that one, I don't get that one, and I see the HTTP, which is the inpatient hospital discharge. You'll notice those are the only four that I get because those authorities match. Now, that is the user interface side of things. Just because I have those authorities specified in a selection list does not mean that I am locked out from making that request, and I'll show that next. So here I've opened up the security XML file, which has the URL mappings with the authorities in here. This is in a metadata source. And you see this is my secure metadata source. And if I scroll down here, I only have one entry that's protected. And it is the secure query birth type request, and I have to have the query birth authority to actually access this request. So you would think this GIG user does not have authority to access query.mort, but you will see that I actually can make a query mort request just by typing in the URL, even though it's not in the selection list on the UI. If we go back here to the UI, the mortality selection is not here, but I can go here and make the request directly, and I'm just going to refresh this just to show you that it's not blocked. There you go. See, I can make that request even though it's a mortality data module. And you can type in any URL that you know of. If it's not protected, if it's not physically protected with Spring Security, you can make that selection even though it's not in a user's selection list. So that's the important concept to get here. Now I'm gonna pause my video for a minute. I'm going to put that authority back in and restart it and show you that it does work. Okay, so I uncommented out this entry for mortality, and I've restarted my app server. Now I'm going to go back to my browser and make that same request that allowed me to make just a minute ago. I'll show you that I actually get an access denied here. There you go. So again, you have the physical access, and then you have what the user interface sees, and they are two totally different things. Even though they both use the same structure for the user authority or privileges or roles, they both use that, but they use them in different ways. Now I wanted to show one other thing here too. When you get an access denied, the error will show up here in your log. So I'm showing you what this looks like right here. Here's the exception. It's a security. It's an access denied exception right here. And anyway, that's what you can see in your log. If you have people that are trying to access things that they are not authorized to, you can actually check your logs to see that. So I'm going to do 2 more videos that deal with security. I'm going to talk more specifically about the nitty-gritty of how to set up security, and then I want to give another overview on how the security works. So if you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call. Thanks.